Vicky, welcome to Grue, and thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you for, asking me to chat.
Definitely, yes, definitely. So I guess the first question I want to start out asking you is like, what inspired you to want to make a film about your family?
Yeah, totally. That was not the intention and originally because it's just so hard and we're not used to talking to each other, especially about such personal, emotional family histories and memories. And originally, I just wanted to make a film about how people from the Chinese diaspora were still dealing with the effects of the Chinese Civil War from
Hmm.
1949 and the Cultural Revolution um, today, even in the United States, wherever, Canada. And it was only when my family went to family therapy together and we did this like genealogical tree exercise. We actually found that our family had inherited trauma from the war that had spread through many generations and from China to Taiwan to US and Canada. That I was like, wow, okay, these are the characters I want to film with, and let me go to these places and talk to family, many of whom I haven't really talked to in depth before, to understand how this family tree happened.
Oh, wow. Okay. And you do have like a lot of people from your fat family on the film. Like you interview a lot of them. And how did you get them to like want to come on the film and actually talk about the past and about stuff that happened?
I think I think only a family member probably could have done it, right? Like it's out of
True.
love, it's out of kindness. It's also maybe they have empathy for me as sort of the American niece or cousin who's so disconnected from her cultural heritage, from language. And so they do want to connect with me and help me answer my questions with at least how they can and with what they know. Um, but the big thing is also like the folks who either were so uncomfortable on camera, even if they wanted to do it, or the folks who didn't want to do it ultimately wouldn't didn't end up in the film. So it was like the
Okay.
family who were very open to talking, accepting of the camera, these types of things, because it is like kind of a kooky thing to be in a documentary. So I understand it.
Yeah. And was it a, a emotional like to I mean because these are our stories you probably never heard, and you said like everyone didn't really like talking about things, so basically like it's like you're hearing it for the first time. And was it emotional like hearing these stories and hear how everyone was treated?
Yes, it was very hard. Because I'm basically asking all the different generations to open up about the
Well,
traumas
yeah,
they
exactly.
experience. Yeah, in China, Taiwan, like during various wars, or in China or in Taiwan, there was also just the White Terror, just a lot, kind of like the Cold War, just a lot of insecurity. Um, and also the island was just like run by the military for a long time. So it was heavy. I didn't know what would come out. Just asking the questions felt really scary already
Mhm.
because, again, we weren't used to having those conversations. And so the biggest takeaway was just having space and time, like taking a lot of time between the interviews, between the conversations, having the support of a producer, a therapist. It was all really, really important.
Well, yeah, definitely, especially hearing all that stuff, and these are
Yeah,
people that are close to you, like part of your family.
yeah, exactly.
And like in the film, we see like how they had to move from China to Taiwan and Taiwan to the States.
Yeah.
And can you tell us about that, about like all the about all the different moves that they they had to make?
Sure. So both my grandparents were part of Chiang Kai-shek's army. So it's basically the side that was against the Chinese Communist Party. They're called the KMT, the Kuomintang. And so they were both part of that army. And basically, as Mao Zedong, the Chinese Communist Party, took over China, they slowly retreated to Taiwan. And actually, the Kuomintang military took over Taiwan. Um, and then my parents were born, and they were born in basically like um, military barracks, like kind of military villages. And then they were born and raised in Taiwan. There was very little food, very few supplies. They grew up in just extreme insecurity, fear that the war would escalate from China to Taiwan, and also dealing with the loss of their homeland, right? So their parents left everything behind. Many of their family members were killed or died. And
Mm,
then my parents in Taiwan, sort of the US is seen as this, I mean, basically the American dream: security, safety, education, economic opportunity. So then my parents went to the US for their education. Um, and then me and my brother were born. But then you sort of had to deal with that process of immigration and assimilation. They sort of
yeah,
lost their homeland of Taiwan. Um, and then me and my brother sort of grew up not really knowing our family history at all. And, dealing with being Asian American, racialized in the United States. So it's sort of like, I describe it as like the grief of generations. And like,
hmm.
how do you process that? How do you know what happened to even be able to begin to grieve?
Oh wow. Was that
Yeah.
I know when you watch the film, like you see how like your mom and dad are very like closed off, like they don't like talking and sort of like wasn't like too kind to you growing up, but then you find out like all the stuff that happened, the trauma, the war, the moving. And how did it feel for you to learn that, learn on why they were kind of closed off to you and your brother?
Totally. Even though it was like really hard to hear the details of everything, it really helped me to understand their world. Like,
Hmm.
not just where they grew up, but their emotional world. Like, what were the things that happened, especially when they were little kids? What did they have to deal with? Were their parents there for them or not? And I think that really humanized things and made me realize, like, you dealt with such severe traumas so directly that, like, I didn't have to do that. And
Yeah.
thus, we're just very different. Um, and so for them, like, even like corporal punishment is just like, it was such an everyday thing for them. And there's even one moment in the film where my dad was hungry as a baby, just like hunger, violence. It was just so familiar.
Yeah, that wow. And like I I like your message for the film because like hearing all these stories and growing up around it, like instead of being like angry or bitter, like it's you want healing, you want
Yeah.
it to be a positive thing.
Yeah.
And how did you come to that point, like to actually like want peace and healing and not like act on any kind of of anger?
I mean, there was anger, like
Well, yeah, I'm
there,
sure.
like moments of anger, like accepting what had happened in our childhood, um, and like whether that's emotional neglect or like some physical abuse, that type of thing. Like very angry in moments through the filmmaking process or very frustrated, right? Because maybe
Yeah.
I want an apology or I want like some recognition and maybe it doesn't come. Um, and the best my mom can say is like, oh, I had it like way worse. I didn't even know, like, I don't even know what you're upset about. And that all happened, right? So, but I guess what the film allows me to do, because it's such a big, long process, is I move through that anger and I'm trying to think, okay, after we do that, what else is there? And it's like
Mhm.
the fact that my family agreed to do this film, that they were so supportive in that way. They showed up to family therapy. Like they knew we were in pain and they wanted to help. And like through that, we stood like side by side through this process. And then I feel like that is what is so valuable. And that's what I want to remember and hold on to.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And what did you love most about shooting the film, about making the film and learning everything?
My favorite part was just like I think like spending that much time with my family and like just recording it. Because now I feel
Yeah.
like I have like the family archive and like how nice to dedicate a few years of my life to doing that, especially because the older generation, even some of them have already passed away, some of the folks that I
Well,
filmed
yeah.
with. And so I just think if I'm so lucky that I got to like spend that intentional time with them and hear their stories and record all of it. And I think that was the best. That was the best part.
Nice, nice. And this has nothing to do with the film. What kind of music do you like listening to? Like what's on your playlist?
Um, Good question. Um, right now, I'm listening to these are going to be the most random references ever. So one is a band called Butch Bastard. I watched them in
Right.
Berlin recently, but they're like folksy, really awesome tunes. We're doing our theatrical release right now, and I've just been listening to him. It's just him and his guitar. It's been so soothing for me all week. And then the other thing I watched was Gypsy on Broadway, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
and the new Audra McDonald version. So I took my
Okay,
partner
yeah.
to watch that for her birthday, and now I'm listening to Everything's Coming Up Roses a lot too in the morning. Has also been getting me pumped.
Awesome. I love it. And if you were gonna do a karaoke song, what do you think you would sing?
Um, I love. I shared the same key as Frank Sinatra, so I
Oh,
loved. Yeah, I love My Way. I think is really great and epic. I of course love the Teresa Tang song in the film. The Moon Represents My Heart.
yes.
Um, I mean, both great ballads. I'm a ballad girl.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah,
And I know we're coming up on our time, so the last thing I'll ask you basically is where can fans watch the film and also follow you at?
totally. So, best place to follow me and keep up with film updates is my Instagram, which is at Vicky do underscore VICKYDU. And the big national release is actually going to be on PBS in the fall, and it'll be streaming
Oh,
also.
nice.
Yep. Right now, we're doing our New York theatrical release. That's going to end this Thursday, April 24th, so that might be a little tight. But we're also screening May 4th in LA as part of the LA Asian Pacific Film Festival.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what about you? Like, where could they follow you at and keep up with everything?
So me and the film, we're both at the same Instagram handle. So at Vicky do underscore is the best way, yeah, to stay in touch.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. I really appreciate it. It was nice meeting you.
It was nice meeting you too, Rocco. Thanks for your thoughtful questions. Yeah, and for the invite. I appreciate
Definitely.
it.
Definitely. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you, you too. Bye bye.
Bye.